Emily Miller from the Washington Times with us tonight. Emily, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. It's election 1 week to election day, right?
It is. Well, less than, actually. It's Wednesday
6
now.
days.
Yeah,
Yep.
I know. And you know, we've been talking a lot about the presidential race, the threat that Barack Obama poses to gun owners. But you pointed out that it's not just the top of the ticket that gun owners should be paying attention to. In a lot of states around the country, there are ballot issues that are very important for the right to keep and bear arms.
Well, that's right. There are 6 states that have major ballot referendum on Tuesday. Three of the states, have constitutional amendments that will make it to help hunting and to make clear that hunting is the primary mode of wildlife management. To say that the rights of hunters cannot be restricted in any way unless for I think just small things, but essentially it's hunters' rights, because these have been the past few years, even up to say 20 years, this threat of these sort of what they call themselves animal rights people, or the environmentalists who are worried about lead or whatever. They've really pushed back, and they're starting. Some of these liberal leftists on the state level push through laws and restrictions that are really based on their feelings, but not based on fact, and not the understanding that hunters are the great conservationists in the country. And so, let's say Kentucky, Wyoming, and Nevada, all three are going to have ballots on Tuesday, which will be constitutional amendments to their state for hunting rights. And that's something that 14 states have done in the past since '96. It originally started actually in 1777, which I just learned recently, in New Hampshire, and then outside of Vermont. But it's a growing movement. There's 2 other states that have ballot initiatives on guns. Alabama has had this hunting and fishing rights amendment on their laws, and they have to bring it back for 20 years to renew it. And finally, Louisiana has a bill. It's basically the Second Amendment redux, because the state's constitution is very weak on the Second Amendment. In fact, the weakest in the country. It allows these activist judges to make crazy decisions, and with very little restrictions, and also it has the door open for banning all carry rights, and even in your own home. So this amendment, which would, I think the NRA has called it, would create the strictest, straight Second Amendment free place in the country, would be Louisiana if this passes. It will make the judiciary branch of their state only accept any restrictions based on the strictest of qualifications, as well as there can be no barriers to carry laws. So these are important measures, and I think part of it is going to be seeing more and more gun enthusiasts, more and more gun owners care, and so I think it's going to affect the turnout for the vote. But it also is something, voting yes on these amendments really says something about the Second Amendment, and no matter who is the president in the next term, that's just a key vote.
Absolutely. And Emily, I mean, you talk about that ballot initiative in Louisiana to make the strongest, most explicit protection of the right to keep and bear arms in state constitutions. Certainly since the Heller decision came down. Now, Louisiana's needed this, I think, for a lot longer than that. But, that strict scrutiny is really important. We just saw a case out of the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals where the judges really reached to avoid having to look at the Second Amendment and the right to keep and bear arms and gun control laws under strict scrutiny. So, when we can actually start to get it out there that, look, it's not just an individual right. It's not just a fundamental right. It is a right that the courts cannot simply water down and wither away under the flimsiest of excuses. To have the people explicitly be able to state that in Louisiana, I think, is a huge message.
It's a huge message both in the state and also nationally, because of how weak it is right now, and to actually strengthen it. And it's very, very not known very often that states have different gun laws, and obviously the Second Amendment trumps all of them. However, when we have these state laws, they're going to be interpreting them differently, the judges in the state. And so it has effect in everywhere. It has effect in these like very anti-gun states when they see what Louisiana's doing.
Absolutely. So that's what's going on at the state level. Now, I also want to talk about that top of the ticket because you had a column recently as well talking about Paul Ryan's guns. You say he's become the most high-profile gun owner in the nation this year. And a lot has been made about Paul Ryan the hunter, but you say what's less known is that he exercises his right to own a handgun for personal protection.
That's right. I was so surprised. I have this new feature series I started. This was the first piece in which I'm going to look at high-profile gun owners and what they own. Just, mostly for a fun topic because it's just interesting, what make and model people have, especially high-profile gun owners, but also showing people that, especially gun grabbers, that very law-abiding, normal people have more than one gun. They're not hurting anyone. They're defending themselves. That they have different uses for them, and that guns are used mostly thousands of times more often for defensive reasons as opposed to committing crimes. So that's the purpose of it. And the first one I did on Paul Ryan, and the campaign gave me his brother-in-law, and Mark Alcott is his name, and they met 10 years ago. And the first question, Mark is a veterinarian, and the first question Paul Ryan asked him, was, do you have a problem with my hunting because you're a veterinarian? And Mark said, no, but I'd be really interested in learning about it. And he said that Paul took him out shooting and hunting, and he's been hooked ever since. So now the two of them go mostly either in Wisconsin they hunt, or their wives are sisters, and their wives' family have a ranch in Oklahoma where they go for holidays and hunt there. But,
wow.
So I asked Mark about what Paul Ryan uses, and he says he uses a Remington rifle for hunting deer, for a shotgun, a Benelli shotgun when he's doing geese or ducks. But he said to me, well, he also uses a .357 revolver when he's hunting deer, which I had never even heard of that. I didn't even know you could hunt with a revolver. He said, yeah, it's more like bow hunting, which he also does, and so it's closer in, within 30 yards.
Right.
It's a very careful shot. And he says that Paul stays in the deer in the stand with the gun holstered and then pulls it when he's going to do it. And he's killed a lot of deer with a handgun. But what really surprised me most of everything is that we always think of Paul Ryan, and we know he's a big gun owner for hunting, so we know long guns. So the revolver surprised me, but really surprised me is that Mark, his brother-in-law, says that he has a gun for home and self-defense handgun, and he has a Glock 9mm. So I think that's really going to surprise people because it just goes to show that, hunting is important, but really the reason we have guns is for self-defense, and that's why Mr. Ryan has one in his home, which he sometimes takes with him to Oklahoma for protection, and he practices avidly, and he says that he actually sometimes even practices target shooting when he's in D.C. with the Capitol Police.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
It is cool. So it was just, it's interesting to see a different side that no one really knew about that side of him, and I hope to find other, high-profile people who will, spill those kinds of details.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Emily, when can we see the next installment of this new series?
Next week, right after the election, we'll do the next one.
Very cool. Well, listen, I'm really glad you could join us on the program this afternoon. We're 6 days away, and hopefully we'll have a chance to catch up one more time before Election Day.
Hopefully, and hopefully we'll have a hunter and gun owner in the White House.
Let's hope. Emily Miller of the Washington Times, thanks for your time tonight, and look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thanks, Ken.